Streaming from Accra.
Guideradio. The new wave. Lovely listeners, my name is Lady Pelos, and you're listening to the Guideradio. You're listening to one of my many podcast sessions, and today I have a very unique guest with me, Larry. I'm going to let Larry introduce himself, as I always do with everyone.
Hey, what's up, people? You hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Larry Ossei-Mensah. I'm the Susanne Feld Senior Curator at the Museum of Contemporary Art in Detroit, Michigan, and I'm also the co-founder of Artnoir, which is a collective based in the States that's really designed to celebrate, elevate creatives of color on one hand, but then on the other hand, also cultivate the next generation of patrons who will support these creatives.
Okay, awesome. So Larry, first of all, let me ask, how long you been in Ghana so far?
So I arrived in Ghana on the 21st, and I leave tomorrow.
Gosh,
so I've been here for a little bit.
Only for a little bit. How's it been so far, though? What's the experience been like?
It's been great. I mean, it's the first time I've been back in Ghana in 10 years. So
in 10 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
So a lot has changed, obviously.
I can
We're
imagine.
in this fancy podcast studio.
Oh, what?
And then a lot of things have stayed the same.
Yeah.
But it's just been great to just see the level of enthusiasm, particularly in the creative community. A lot of people who've moved back because they see an opportunity for them to contribute to the next stage of evolution for the country. Mm-hmm. And it's just also been great to just see people who just have been here, have been part of shaping the future. And also just shaping what's happening now, so having a chance to go to Afrochella. Last night I went to Tina Fest. Devon shows up at like 3 a.m. I was like, wait, what?
Sure.
But like these are only things really that I think can happen in Ghana.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely been invigorating. And so for me, a lot of this experience beyond like seeing family and friends is really trying to understand how can I contribute and be of service and be helpful. Yeah. And so a lot of observation really and talking to people and just seeing like what is it that interests them, where are their needs. Okay. So it's been fun.
Okay, cool beans. So I'm just wondering, let's take it back to I don't want to say the beginning, but I guess how did you get into, where did the passion for this scene, this industry come from? Has it always been there, or is it something that kind of developed along the way?
It's developed over time. I spent a lot of my youth formative years working at different record companies. I wanted to be in the record business.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I worked at Epic Records, Columbia Records, Sony Publishing, Atlantic Records.
Basically each and every, almost all of them.
Yeah, but I was like in my late teens, early 20s, and that's also when like Napster emerges. And I think it was such a disruption that the industry didn't know how to handle it. Mm-hmm. And I also, through working, I kind of realized that wasn't the space that I was going to be able to add true value. And so from there, I worked in advertising for a little bit, went to grad school and studied in Switzerland. And it was when I was living in Switzerland, I caught the bug. Okay. Because I started traveling, going to see shows. And, I go to places like Barcelona or Madrid or London, and you would see these paintings of Black figures, and like, it almost was like, you were the only one that saw it. Yeah. And it began to stir up these questions. And so when I moved back, I started to find out ways to answer those questions. So part of that was through my own expression, making pictures, exhibiting, photography, writing, and then eventually curating, because I felt like there wasn't enough platforms for emerging artists, particularly emerging artists of color, emerging artists from the diaspora. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to figure out a way to provide those platforms. And it doesn't necessarily always have to be in an exhibition format. Okay. It could be, through doing a talk. We do a lot through Artnoir. We do a lot of tours of exhibitions, studio visits, dinners, different kind of collaborations as a way to support not only the artist, but make the art accessible to people who are creatively curious, but might feel like it's not something for them.
Okay. Let's talk more about Artnoir. So that came from I guess, the need to, as you said, create that platform for...
Yeah, so I think Artnoir unofficially started 2013, and it really just started with just like doing field trips.
Field trips?
Yeah, so I would just be like, hey, I'm going to go see Yinka Shonabari at the Bronze Foundation in Philly. Who wants to come?
That was it,
and
open for everybody?
People would just come, and there'll be a group of like 10 or 20 people. Most of them didn't know each other. The only linchpin was that they all knew me.
Okay, sure.
And then over the years, they began to build their own friendships and relationships. And so that, led us to going to South Africa and participating in the Black Portraitures Conference.
Okay.
Where we did a panel that was looking at the notion of universal blackness through the lens of African artists specifically.
Okay.
And African creatives. And then we formally became a 501c3 in 2017.
Okay.
And so now we're like a formal nonprofit, just really working to celebrate and advocate for artists. And using our different skill sets, because my co-founders, some work in advertising, some work in tech, some work in PR. And so how do we use those skill sets also to kind of open up a broader conversation and experiences? So like, for example, just yesterday we were talking about Chantel Martin, who's an amazing artist from the UK who's going to be collaborating with the New York City Ballet.
Okay.
And there are going to be 3 special performances that are going to include her artwork. And so we sent an email blast to our network and saying, hey, we're going to be at the New York City Ballet. Let's mob it out. Tickets at $35, February 8th.
That's awesome.
And it'll be like, 30, 40 people who are all coming to see Chantel's work, experience the ballet. Some people, it's purely social. They might have just moved to New York and they're trying to build relationships.
Yeah, another way to build up. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I mean, for me, it's been a great way to extend the practice and just do things where it's 7 of us in terms of founders, and it's pretty much a yay or nay. Like there isn't this kind of bureaucracy.
Okay, that's cool.
So it allows us to be real nimble.
Yeah. No, and it's interesting in itself, but I do want to understand more, I guess, about Black people, African Americans, what be it in that sense, people of color being able to enjoy the art scene in itself and having a place where they can be a part of it, curating it, educating people on it and being leaders in that. Why, I think I read somewhere, I think it was only 4% of African American people are involved in that process in itself. In that scene, is that correct? Would you say is it a small amount of people that are actually involved in that process?
So I can't speak to the number, but I can definitely say that there is a need for more folks to be involved, and I think there's a lot of variables that contribute to that. A lot of that is exposure. So like for me, for example, I'm an anomaly, right? So I didn't grow up going to museums.
Okay.
I grew up in the Bronx. I was into other things.
Sure.
And luckily art found me, and has been this driving force that's really nourished me, helped me to see the world in a more expansive way, helped me build really incredible relationships. And so for me, it's like, how do you transfer those experiences to other people?
Yeah.
So I think that's partly why, we started Artnoir, because we recognized that, there weren't enough experiences, events, exhibitions, just opportunities to just kind of be. Because I think a lot of times, depending on the environment, there's a bit of performance that happens,
Performance.
Yeah, so you're performing blackness sometimes.
Okay, sure, okay.
Or you just can't be your full self, Okay. And so for us, we pride ourselves on like creating events it's for everybody, but it's, we want you to come with positive energy, and it's about just letting your hair down, learning, having a good time, making some new connections.
Yeah.
I think in terms of the industry, with art by Black artists from the diaspora really kind of being at the forefront right now, I think you're going to begin to see things change. I mean, even in the last 3 to 6 months, like with my appointment as senior curator at MoCAD, and a number of other colleagues who've been appointed to positions at different museums, you're beginning to see the tide shift. You're beginning to see institutions with a desire to specifically hire with the notion of being inclusive as a priority. And then I think also the work just needs to be done by people who are in the positions to make those decisions. So like for me, I'm going to be a mentor at with this organization, Viz Arts, which is based in Maryland.
Okay.
And I'm going to curate a show, and then I'm going to mentor one emerging artist to help them do their first major exhibition.
Oh, okay.
So for me, I can speak to, what I'm doing in terms of just trying to help folks, be a sounding board if necessary, share information about opportunities, and really just try to build a pipeline, in a kind of like organic way, and then in a more kind of practical, direct way.
Okay. And going back, does Artnoir itself, do they have, do you create opportunities to, I guess, work with younger, like people that are in school, young Black?
So that's something that there's an initiative that we're working on, specifically focusing on children, because I think 2 of my co-founders have kids.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm at that age where all my friends are having kids.
I mean, yeah, okay.
And so it's like, hey, do you want to do this thing? No, I got to find a babysitter.
Okay.
And so being conscious of that, it's like, okay, how do we create experiences that are kid-friendly, right? And how do we create experiences where, like, the kids, are being cultivated from a young age? Yeah. So it's great. Like, one of my co-founders, I think we went to visit an artist, and her daughter, I think it's like 4 or 5 or something like that. And she was like looking at the artwork and had an opinion, which is great, because I think also, beyond creative expression, art is a great tool to develop cognitive skills, critical thinking. Okay. And I think a lot of times that's like not something that's discussed. I mean, to have, a young person who can say, I like this phone over this, and explain to you why, is a perfect and important skill to develop. That's because that allows them to be way more empowered when they become an adult. Yeah. So these are like the other variables that I'm thinking about beyond just like creativity and creative expression. But it's like, how do you create a generation of people who are critically thinking about the world around us?
Yeah. And that's interesting, because then I think about, young people, youth here in Ghana, and you find that in a lot of households, the suggestion of wanting to be an artist or wanting to be in the arts and culture scene is almost looked down on. Yeah. And I mean, I wouldn't say as much before, but it's still there now, in that sense that it doesn't seem as like a qualifiable actual job or something, a career to look forward to, for a lot of parents. And I wonder in what way can we create a platform for young kids to be able to know that it is an option, and it's something that they can really express themselves through. And as you just said as well, it builds up that cognitive ability in that sense, and it gives them the opportunity to I don't know, get out of that systematic kind of way of thinking.
Yeah, because I think that's something that I've noticed is a bit tricky in Ghana, and that you have a lot of people who kind of like go by the rules and can't really pivot when like things don't work out.
Right. Yes.
And that lack of ability to pivot actually causes more problems. Sure. Right. And so something as simple as like you go to a restaurant and it's like, okay, I want a cheeseburger. We don't have cheeseburgers today. Okay, I want a turkey burger. We don't have turkey burgers today. Whereas before I sit down, you just say, we don't have cheeseburger, turkey burger. This is what we have. Sure. And then it's like, oh, okay, then I can make a decision. Do I want to stay or do I want to go someplace else? Yeah. So just like those little things. But I think the tide is changing, and it was really great to talk to a lot of, people who are working in design, working in fashion. I visited Kwame Nkrumah University when I was in Kumasi. Oh, okay, visited some artists who were there to see what they're doing and what they're thinking about. So it's changing, and I think also with the recent announcement of Ghana having its first pavilion at the Venice Biennale. Right, that's exciting. Big deal because like the government is supporting that. Yeah. And the government understands the importance of art and culture, really as a platform to build the nation, right? And so in terms of Venice, we're showing the best of the best in terms of Ghanaian artists. Okay. And so for people to see those role models, to see Ghana on the world stage, I think it's a big deal, right?
Yeah. Are you involved in that process of picking and selecting?
No, so the artists have already been selected. So Lynette Yadam Watchen, I'm going to be writing an essay on her work.
Okay.
She is a British Ghanaian artist, painter. Jana Comfort is also participating. Ellen Atsui.
Okay.
Who else? Ibrahim Muhammad.
Okay.
And there's 2 others that I'm forgetting. Unfortunately, I apologize for that. But these are all, masters. These are the best of the best.
Yeah.
And so, and then David Ajay is going to be designing the pavilion. And so it's like,
that's awesome.
There are plenty of examples. If you look at David, if you look at what Edward is doing.
Yeah.
At British Vogue. Idris, who's half Ghanaian, what he's doing in terms of Hollywood. And there was another gentleman who just passed away that someone was explaining to me. He just passed away yesterday. He was a designer in the UK. Haverford, I believe is his last name.
We're going to have to find that out. Yeah. We'll find that out.
So I wasn't aware. I just was learning about him. But I think international Ghanaians have always kind of been at the forefront of creativity.
Yeah, which is interesting because I feel like it hasn't, even though the presence is there, they're there. I feel like we don't get that opportunity for a lot of people to hear about it unless you're in that.
It's funny. I was talking to a friend. He said, the thing that's a bit of a catch-22 is that, Ghanaians were also very humble.
Sure.
And so we need to speak a little bit more loudly, like our other friends. I won't name countries.
I think I know who you're talking about because I was just about to mention.
But it's a legit thing in terms of like, how do you speak from the mountaintops the amazing work that we're doing?
Yeah.
Not from a point of ego, but from a point of inspiring other young people.
Of course.
But I think it's changing.
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, it's an example just in terms of like my parents have been super supportive of this, like
from the beginning.
Weird journey. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm actually impressed. I mean, no, okay, it does happen. I'm making it sound like all Ghanaian parents are super against.
My parents.
Yeah.
No, that's not him. No, it's another guy in the UK. He wears at Jeeves and something.
Jeeves and something. Okay.
In the UK.
Some avid
If you
researching.
go on Edward's Instagram, you'll see it. But what was I gonna say?
About Ghanaian parents.
Yeah, no, I mean, my mom was like, as long as you pay the rent,
then it's Gucci. It's good.
It's cool.
Wow.
That's
supportive. Yeah.
Because also in talking to different family members, I've come to understand that like there actually is like a nucleus of creatives in my family, but because at the time they were growing up, that wasn't
an option.
Yeah. They had to get like, a practical job.
Sure.
Start a family.
Yeah.
And so I think it's changing, and like, Josh Kissy has an initiative, Coast to Coast, and they did a talk. I think the second night I was here, and it was great to talk to creatives working in fashion, entrepreneurs, models, and so I think the more and more we kind of speak up, celebrate this work, shine a light on it. I think it will inspire people to know that there are other avenues.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important that we have a spectrum, because that's really like when you have a very robust society where it's like, you have the rule of law, I guess, but then you also have the creative space, and it creates this nice back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I guess there's a lot of things happening, and there's a lot of things that you attended during this time in Ghana. But were those the reasons why you came over, or was there another significant reason to it? Were you just coming over for a specific holiday?
So I came for family. Bozema St. John was a great friend who was working with Boris on Full Circle. So I had a lot of friends who were coming for that.
Oh, Full Circle, yeah. What do you think about that in itself? Especially for the year return and everything.
I think it's cool. I mean, for me, I come from a marketing background, so I understand from a narrative building standpoint what it means. And I think it was great because a lot of my friends who came, it was their first time to Ghana.
Okay.
And so for me, it was important And I think it's important for people to be exposed to all the different things that are happening.
Yeah.
And you hope that through that experience, somebody catches a bug and says, I want to come back to Ghana. And maybe it's not just for a holiday. Maybe it's for, investment. I wanted to do a project.
Yeah.
Michael Jai White was installed as the chief. So
yeah, I did hear about that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's all great, because at the end of the day, Ghana, hospitality is our thing. We're very welcoming people, and I think the more folks, particularly from the diaspora, who know that there is a place for them here, know that, I think the better, right? And then I think now that creates space where, maybe, Ebro was here.
Yeah.
And like he can come and do like a workshop and talk about the future of radio because he just got promoted at Apple. Okay. And so I think that also now creates space for knowledge exchange, right? Yeah. And then also I think I did come to be part of the festivities around the announcement of the pavilion for Venice, because that's a big deal. I mean, Venice has been around, I think, over 125 years.
For that specific 125 years.
Yeah. And so that's like the Olympics of art.
It's the Olympics of art. That's the perfect way of
and
describing
so like
that.
Ghana to be participating, and we're in the Arsenale, so that's like the hub. We're not like off to the side. We're in the mix is a big deal.
I guess it's going to do a lot for the tourism. Anyhow, did you hear about the fact that Ghana was apparently 4th for the places to go to in 2019?
That's great.
I mean, I guess these are all the contributing factors that are working towards it becoming a place where people can enjoy the culture of Ghana and the different aspects of it. Yeah. It's not just, I guess it's different. I mean, there's different ways of guessing how to describe Ghana in itself. And one aspect you said was the hospitality, but like there's the art part is coming through in that respect as well. And there's so many different avenues. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think the creativity is just so innate to us. There's times where we take it for granted.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I think that to get people to understand that arts and culture actually drives economics, drives economies. Yeah. For me is a big thing that I've been trying to like understand and work towards, right? So like you have people who are coming here, whether it's to go to Cape Coast or go to Kumasi or Tamale or study here, whatever the case may be, that hopefully creates jobs, and that hopefully creates opportunities. And I think for people who are here, who are starting restaurants or starting hotels or agencies or whatever the case may be, you hope that it helps expand the pie and makes the ecosystem more robust. Because it's great for people to come and visit, but I think it's also great for people who want to invest in some shape or form, in a way that makes sense for them. So I think, things like Full Circle, things like, what Josh did with Coast to Coast, because I was specifically focused on Ghanaian creatives. Okay. Charlie Wote, which is happening in the summer, and I hope to be back for that.
Sure, that'd be great.
There are a multitude of things that are happening. And so for me, I'm just trying to spend as much time as I can here and observe and learn and figure out, okay, where can I help?
I mean, would you consider coming back and staying and maybe kind of feeling your roots out to seeing how you can better create?
I mean, potentially. I never rule out anything, because I think in spaces like Ghana or wherever you are, you have to kind of really be on the ground to understand the nuance of things that are happening. Yeah. It's great to be here for holiday. There's parties every night. You're having a great time. Yeah. But what happens when it's kind of more of a normal pace? Yeah. How are people living? What are people doing? How are they convening? How are they expressing themselves? So I think it's important to see like the spectrum. So I'm definitely aiming to come back as much as possible and really kind of figure out what's my role in this, So it won't be another 10 years before I come back.
It won't be. I hope so. That's a lot. How did you manage 10 years of not coming back? What happened? Working throughout the entire time.
Working. I mean, prior to being appointed at MOCAD, I worked as an independent curator for 10 years.
Okay, sure.
And so pretty much you eat what you kill. So if you don't kill, you don't eat. And
true words.
And I think also like, I'm 38 now, so I think I was also finding myself getting a better sense of my identity, and just living life.
Yeah, on your speaking about that in itself, what was it like? I mean, I guess I don't know if it was anything distinctly different, but you were raised in
New York, raised in the Bronx.
Yeah, how is it growing up? I guess in terms of identity wise, did you get people talking, asking you a lot of questions about Ghana and stuff, or was that never a question that came up?
When I was younger, you either they ask questions or they make fun of you.
Oh no!
But I think I was talking to an artist yesterday about this. It's like when you grow up, both my parents are from Ghana, in a Ghanaian household. So much of that is ingrained in, the way you think, the way you treat people, the way you greet people. So I always tell people, I could have been born anywhere and I'll still be Ghanaian first.
Okay.
America just happened to be the context with which I grew up. But I mean, for me, I think it's the best of both worlds because, I'm very much an African American as well.
Okay.
And I grew up in a neighborhood that was predominantly Puerto Rican, Dominican, West African. And so it was great to see how all those different cultures, triangulate. So like I was in Dominican Republic last May, and, I'm having lunch and I'm looking at the food and I'm just like, this looks like something my mom would make.
Really?
Yeah. The plantains, made 10 different ways. When I was in Puerto Rico, they had, boiled plantains, I think with like a peanut sauce or something like that.
I guess it makes me think of the exhibition, the postcard from New York.
Yeah. So that was an exhibition I did in June in Rome.
Okay.
And it was really, for me, trying to explore the multitude of Black identity, I guess, through the lens of these artists. So you had artists from, Paul Anthony Smith, who's Jamaican, but then Hilberry Baez, who's Haitian and Dominican.
Okay.
Derek Adams, who's African American. And really trying to show the spectrum of these identities, but also the spectrum of making.
Okay.
And for me, it was important to cite it in Rome because Italy has become relatively more conservative as a country.
Okay, in every aspect?
Politically.
Okay.
Definitely politically. Not in every aspect, but politically, more specifically.
Okay.
And I think my show, Simone and Jaime also had a show up that was looking at Africa through the lens, I think, of urban spaces and architecture.
Okay.
And that was at the Maxi. And for me, I think as a curator, that's kind of one of my goals is to make sure that, like, I'm doing as many projects abroad as I am in the States.
Sure.
Because for me, I'm always thinking about individuals who exist on the periphery or the margin, and how do you privilege those voices?
Putting a focus on the...
Exactly. So, like, I have a show that was up in Miami called Parallels and Peripheries, and that was focused on women. So it's 8 women. When I was working on it, Kavanaugh, who now is, I think, in the Supreme Court, was going through his proceedings. And I was just like, watching this on the news, I'm just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And so for me, I thought about who were the voices that I wanted to hear, and I was like, these women.
Yeah.
And so part 2 of that show is actually going to go to Detroit, opening February 1st. Okay. And it's 12 artists, 10 are women. Half, I think, are from the Midwest. And that's always going to kind of be my focus. So it might not necessarily always be around gender or identity. It could be psychographics. It could be, people who I feel like just don't have enough opportunities, or that their ideas aren't really being amplified in a way that's meaningful. That's always where I'm going to kind of be drawn to.
Okay, that's interesting. There's a lot of, I guess there's a lot of space and a lot of opportunity for people, though, I guess, that have been marginalized in that space, are able to express themselves properly. And I want to know more about, and I'm sure the listeners do as well, what kinds of things are you working on, or what kinds of things are you doing at MOCAD, with MOCAD? Right?
So I'll have my first exhibition opening February 1st, as I said, Parallels and Peripheries. And then really trying to cultivate a mixed bag of experiences. So, exhibitions, dynamic programming. We have an initiative that's launching. Pat, who's one of our new media and tech curator, that's going to use our website, our museum website, as a platform for exhibition.
Okay.
You know, because so much of, you know, my focus is also like, how do you make these experiences accessible? You know, how do I make it accessible to like a 16-year-old me who probably wouldn't care what's going on?
That's
you know,
interesting.
so how do I reach you? How do I reach people who normally don't feel like they're part of the conversation?
Yeah.
So really trying to be as creative as possible in terms of the exhibitions we put on, the programs we put on, the communities we engage, amplifying the magic of Detroit. So trying to find those diamonds in the rough, who are making amazing work, and maybe we're revisiting their work or they haven't had an opportunity. So just as much as we're doing the work in the region, but then also bringing in voices where you create this steel sharpened steel scenario, and you have this knowledge exchange.
Yeah.
Because for me, I think you need a polarity. It can't be one or the other. It needs to be both. And then I think you get this nice tension and new ideas and new expression emerge.
Okay, that's interesting. I was thinking about the tension of it, and I guess the ideas and the concepts behind the exhibitions, and I was thinking about a particular one, On the Road, which I thought that was particularly interesting. For those that are listening, On the Road is also a book by Jack Kerouac, and I just thought that using that as a kind of basis, what should I say, platform, or to then put that exhibition through that. I wonder why you chose that in particular.
So I was in Europe for like 5 or 6 weeks this summer. So I did the show in Rome, went to Berlin for the Biennale.
Okay.
My friend Gabby, who's from South Africa, was the curator for that. And then I spent some time in Greece, and I was trying to think about these iterative projects that I can do, inspired by Hans Ober's Take Me, I'm Yours. Is Take Me, I'm Yours? I think it's called Take Me, I'm Yours. Which is a project he's been doing for the last 15 years in different iterations.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't see any of my contemporaries asking these questions in different iterations. So Parallels and Peripheries is an example of something that I'll do every year in different iterations.
Okay.
And then On the Road, I think, was just really responding to artists that I was meeting in my travels. So like an artist like Medici, who I had an opportunity to see his work, or artists that I've met, in Kumasi. I try to share what they're doing on social media, as a platform. But I think if there's an opportunity to do an exhibition,
that would be great.
That's even more interesting. I think for the show that's up now, it's at Jenkins Johnson Project in Brooklyn until January 12th. That was focusing on artists from the Midwest. So Basil Kincaid, Caroline Kent, Esau McGee, all artists based in the Midwest. Esau and Caroline are in Chicago. Basil's in St. Louis, and I met them last year when I was traveling.
Yeah.
So I went to St. Louis to see the city, and friends were like, "You got to meet Basil."
Okay.
Chicago is kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
So every time I travel, it's like either friends are telling me you need to see these artists, or like an artist will DM me on Instagram and say, "Hey, if you have time, come by the studio."
That's
depending on my schedule.
Yeah.
Like that's how I actually did the visits when I was at Tech, because like my cousin works in finance. And he was giving me a tour of the campus.
Okay.
And I posted a picture from the botanical garden, and this artist was like, "Oh, you're on campus. I'm in my studio. Come."
Awesome.
Like, shit, okay. Can I come? Sorry. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll come.
Yeah.
And I ended up doing 2 studio visits, and now these are artists who are like in my network now.
Okay.
Right? And like I have a sense of what they're working on. They'll update me, and maybe there's an opportunity to show their work, or maybe someone else might have an opportunity.
Yeah.
They might say, "Hey, who are some artists in Ghana that you saw?" And like to begin to now like have a list, I think is important. Because my work as a curator isn't just putting on exhibitions in a gallery. It's also like engaging in dialogue and learning about what's happening in a particular space, and how can you connect the dots between, an artist and an opportunity.
Yeah. I don't know if this is a bit of a controversial thing, but like I guess I just want to know if there are any particular artists that you were really excited about to see more of. Any emerging ones that you're excited to hear more of?
There's an artist, I feel like I'm going to butcher his name, Amako Boafo.
Okay.
From Ghana. He's currently training in Vienna.
Oh,
and he's actually going to have a solo exhibition in LA next Saturday.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I'm going to LA for it.
Oh, wow.
Young painter who's just like, I don't want to make comparisons, but I can see what the work would look like in 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
So he's someone that I'm super excited about. There's a young artist in New York, Damon Davis, who's now at the Sugar Hill Children's Museum. Makes sculptural paintings with plexiglass. Who else am I excited about? John Rivas, who's a young artist out of Newark via El Salvador. Deborah Roberts, who most people have become familiar with, amazing artist out of Austin, Texas. Mm-hmm. There's a multitude.
I'm putting a lot of pressure on you right now to remember everybody's names.
And, you know, I'm sure there'll be some people who are mad because I didn't mention them, but it's a constant kind of like negotiation in terms of like conversations that I'm having with artists. Yeah. Because there's always like artists who want feedback, and you know there are only so many hours in a day. Yeah.
I'm guessing artists particularly would want you to mentor them and guide them.
Yeah, but I think that's an organic thing, right? Yeah. So it's like I meet somebody, I talk to them, like, oh, okay, you got the goods. Mm-hmm. You know, I want to see where this goes.
You can just sense it.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing it long enough to kind of know that, okay, because what I'm looking at is not just like the art you're making, but I'm looking at what are the ideas, what are your interests, what's your work ethic, what are your goals, you know, because those are all different variables that kind of factor into the success of an individual. Yeah. Just because you're talented in making something doesn't mean you're going to be successful. Because if we don't work hard,
it doesn't go
particularly
anywhere.
Like when people aren't paying attention, you're not going to do well. You know, if you only thrive when people are like showering you with praise, you're only going to go so far.
That's an interesting thing to say, especially. I just wanted to ask as well. In that sense, do you feel as though that an artist needs to have particular training, or, I mean, I don't know what, in comparison, the ratio of the amount of people that you've seen that have been trained and the ones that I have not, is there a significant difference?
So I think an artist needs to work towards mastering their craft. Okay. So whatever gets you towards mastering your craft. So whether that is formal training, whether that's, you know, I've had conversations with other artists about just doing residencies. Okay. Where, you know, so what a residency is that like, let's say I have this space and I'm inviting artists from Ghana to come spend a month here. Yeah. I have a space to make art. Mm-hmm. I'll have other artists and curators come, do studio visits, have conversations. Mm-hmm. The artists will have conversations. But just a focused amount of time to just make work or think about work or develop a project. Yeah. That is just as valuable as someone going back to school for 2 to 3 years. Mm-hmm. I think that comes down to the individual in terms of what they feel is going to help get them to the next level. Mm-hmm. But I think overall for me, the goal should just be mastering your craft. And I think as long as that's the intent and the focus, you're going to find the right avenues and platforms that help you do that.
Okay. I mean, would that be your, I guess, your main tip, or are there other things as well that maybe upcoming and emerging artists can take away?
Yeah, so work towards mastery, read a lot, do research. If there are particular artists that you like and enjoy, learn their journey. It's not about an apples to apples comparison, but looking for an insight that might be helpful towards you. Work hard, make a lot of artwork. So just because you made one great painting doesn't mean you're an amazing artist. Like you got to make
continually
thousands of great paintings.
Hundreds and thousands. Gosh.
Lots of paintings.
I can't imagine the hours that I put that, just the consistent and the focus. I cannot imagine it.
I mean, it's like it takes focus, and then also being able to deliver. Yeah. You know, because it's like also you'll have situations that I always pay attention to, like where like, you know, people come to me and be like, oh, I like this artist's work, and watching how they deal with that, where I'm like, hey, you like his work, he wants to buy a painting by you, and watching how you deal with that transaction. Is that professional, or do you not respond, or you disappear? Okay. Because that's also for me a red flag of just like accountability. Okay. You know, so I think being accountable, working hard, mastering your craft, reading, finding mentors if you can. And then traveling if you can.
Would you say that's intrinsic to actually being able to create better artwork, being able to travel?
I think so. I mean, that's a privilege opportunity. You have some people who don't have the resources to leave Ghana.
Sure.
Right? So if you can't leave Ghana, Ghana has a lot of regions. You can go visit other regions in Ghana.
Sure, that's a good point. I think people think of travel, they think they need to completely.
Yeah, and it doesn't cost much to get on a bus. Go up to Kumasi or Volta region or Tamale or whatever and just see how artists are working there.
Yeah.
And building relationships and networks there.
Mm.
So, but I think getting out of your comfort zone is important. Otherwise, you end up being a big fish in a small pond and you're not really pushing yourself towards growing and evolving.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's also like, do you have a desire to grow and evolve and get better, whatever that means for you, and really, be able to work at your highest potential, And so those are different variables that I look at. That comes from experience working as a curator. That comes from life experience. That comes from working in the business world, in the marketing world. That it's a whole combination of things that allow you to be sustainable. So it's less about, I think, becoming an art star and becoming mega wealthy. But I think if you can create a scenario where like you can make your work on your own terms, and you're not doing it just to pay the bills, but you're doing it because it makes you happy.
Sure.
Which again is like, that's a case by case basis. Some people might have to get proper jobs, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But I think having a clear North Star in terms of why you're doing it is very important.
Okay. Just a thought came to mind. I think it was about a year ago, or maybe more, I think. But Swizz Beatz, he commissioned, he did an event, he created an event.
No commission.
No commission in London. I guess it's interesting as well in that space. Someone, I guess, who a lot of people may have not seen in the art world as well, to be able to put up an event like that. And I guess I wanted to hear your opinions about it. Like, I wonder if you went to his other one as well. I think
so I went to the one he just did in Miami. I mean, Swizz has been active for a long time.
Yeah.
As a collector, people forget he actually made paintings too.
Yes. And it's really great because
he doesn't talk about that a lot anymore, but he made paintings. But he's a creative.
Yeah,
so he naturally creates.
Yeah,
and I think he understands where the ecosystem is right now, and trying to create platforms where artists can have their work be seen and for them to receive 100% benefit of that.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great avenue, but I think we need many more avenues. And I think the other cool thing is that he's gotten people who may not have thought about collecting art to now start thinking about it.
Sure.
Because I think just as much as you want to see shifts in terms of people who are working at institutions, whether it be curators, registrars, docents, we also need to see more diversity in terms of the patrons who support the institutions.
Sure.
Right? So getting people to understand that patronage is important. And that's how you shape the narrative.
Yeah.
Having a seat at the table.
Yeah.
Where the decisions are being made.
Yeah.
Because if we don't have enough of us at the table, then the narrative will continue to be inaccurate.
Yeah. I was just thinking about it because I just thought when I actually spoke to him, I interviewed him a while back, and I just thought it was really amazing. I thought it was really interesting that the exhibition was made specifically for the artist to be able to enjoy it and have that experience, and then also to be able to get that return back. Like they were fully acknowledged for every aspect and every part of it, and I just thought that was great. And I would love to see, as you said, more avenues for that and more avenues as well for the people to be able to support this sort of thing. And it's great that I'm just bringing back to Ghana that there's more of a backing, I guess, from say like the government and stuff like that. And I think it'd be great to have bigger exhibition events like that in a place that people can actually go and enjoy the art.
Well, so I think so that's all part of this, right? And I think it's coming, right? And so, you have a number of galleries that are in Ghana. You have a number of initiatives that will launch this year. So as part of the launch with regard to Ghana being in Venice, there's also going to be a series of platform experiences that are going to happen throughout the country in all the different regions.
Okay.
So bringing the art to the people through the form of these mobile museums.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's cool.
Because it's one of these things, and it's a big conversation that is just happening in the institutional space in terms of like, you can't really wait for people to come to you. You have to go to them.
Yeah.
And then hopefully through going to them, it triggers an excitement where they want to continue.
Yeah.
So it's changing, and I've noticed the change, and it's exciting. And so I think it's just like, how do we continue to support it and make sure that it's not a one-shot deal, and that it's a continual thing
to make it more sustainable. In that sense.
Because I think that's the key, is the sustainability part.
Yeah.
The hard part is launching it, but the harder part is maintaining a level of sustainability in any creative endeavor.
Yeah.
And so that's why, like with artists, I'm always getting to think about long-term, think about sustainability, not just kind of like get rich quick.
Yeah. And I wonder how we can make, how you feel as well, that art can be something that's consumable, not just for people that I guess have more of, I feel like art maybe for some people may be termed in something as for privileged people, for something to be enjoyed, because obviously maybe people are not obviously, but people might not, that's not the first thing they're thinking about. I want to go somewhere and I want to enjoy art.
Yeah.
Besides maybe the art center sort of thing, but that's a place
for tourists. Art is everywhere. It's you have public art. You have like the show that Medici did. He's making pens. He's making books.
But I wonder how it can trickle down into the everyday person for them to also enjoy art and understand the importance and the need for it.
Well, I think in particular with Ghana, I think there are a number of institutions that hopefully you'll see a bit of a refresh.
A refresh?
In terms of the work that they're doing around arts and culture.
Yeah.
But I think even like where was I? I was at by East Legon. There's like an art center place where they sell stuff.
Yes. Oh no, it's gonna. I know exactly what you're talking about.
But even something as simple as just taking your kids for a stroll through there.
Yeah.
Because like it was interesting to talk to a lot of the artisans that like, I bought this kalimba from a guy who made it.
Yeah.
And just talking to him about like what was the process of making.
I guess,
you know, because I think those spaces are typically thought through as like transactional spaces where you go and buy stuff.
Yeah.
But I think you can also kind of go and observe and talk and learn because they're artisans, and they want to talk and share about what they're making. But I think also it's thinking about families. I think it starts with the families as well. So how do you expose your kids to art?
Yeah.
Whether that's,
and especially in schools.
In the schools, supporting art classes.
Yeah.
So one of the guy who I bought a kalimba actually is an art teacher as well.
Okay.
And he teaches kids in his community. But I think parents just sitting with their kids and drawing, reading, because art isn't just visual. It is music. It is performance. It is cinema. And there's so many different lanes and verticals. So like, how do you expose people to all the various ways of expression?
Yeah.
So I think starting with the family, starting at home, and then I think it kind of expands to kind of the more like art world.
Okay.
But I think for me, it's always been about creating experiences that are accessible. So what are those accessible experiences that people can enjoy? Whether it's just going to the park, for example.
Yeah.
So it's a step-by-step process. There's no silver bullet.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the fact that people are just thinking about it, for me, is refreshing. And so starting with those dialogues, and then how do you turn that into action, and how do you turn that action into like sustainable behavior?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I've definitely learned a lot from this entire conversation, because I guess in that sense, there's only I think everything that I knew before is a bit more surface in terms of understanding the art world. There's so many different things that goes into it. I'm sure you didn't even mention as well, poetry as well that goes with it and everything. Yeah. There's so much.
I mean, Ghana has a huge poetry scene here.
I know, yes.
Which like nobody talks about.
it's strange, but it's there. Like that's another thing that you mentioned earlier, the humility, I guess, of it. It's undercurrent. It's there, and it's only because by maybe asking or knowing somebody that you know it's there, but it's not presently in your face.
Yeah,
where you know
and I
about
think
it.
that we need to be a little bit more boastful in terms of the creative endeavors that are available. So like Jessica Caramore, who's a legendary poet, spent I think over a week here doing performances. Spending time with her son who's 12. He did like a teen poetry event.
Okay.
You know, so poetry is huge in Ghana. Theater is huge in Ghana.
Yeah.
I think so. Going beyond just the visual art and really celebrating all the various things. Like my friend, and I think she works as a producer, and I think there were like 5 or 6 plays that she was like, you should come see this. I was like, wow. So it's not just like Nollywood films. Like,
yeah.
There's a multitude of things that are happening. So how do we amplify those things so people know that those are options? Because that'll also attract a different kind of, I guess, guest.
Yeah.
So I mean, imagine if Ghana was like, the site for like a world poetry conference or something. That would be
amazing. Yeah.
So I think it's really, we're only limited by our imagination.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, the work is the work. It's going to be hard. It's never going to be easy.
Yeah.
But I think if you're doing it with the right intention, it'll always reap some benefits that are beyond comprehension.
Okay. Well, that is a perfect note to end on. We're only limited by imagination. Yeah. Larry, it's been a pleasure talking to you. And I'm sure a lot of people and a lot of listeners have definitely learned a lot, just as I have. But I just want to go off that point of accessibility and want to make sure that people are able to find out more information. Okay. Is there different things that we can links, websites?
So Instagram. Website for the museum, mocad.org, mocad.org. For Artnoir, it's artnoir.co. And if you guys are on social media, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Young Global, YOUNGGLOBAL. Sometimes I forget how to spell that.
It's fine.
And yeah, if you go on my Instagram and you want to reach out to me, there's a button you can click, send me an email. Yeah. If you want me to check out your art, or you want me to know about what's going on in your community, you want me to come speak, whatever the case may be, I am available. So just shoot me a note. And thank you so much for having me here. This has been amazing.
It's been a really lovely experience. Well, you've heard that. Larry has different means of getting in contact with him. So if you're an artist yourself or you're just interested to know more, be sure to contact him. So we're going to love you and leave you guys. It's definitely been a very insightful evening. And we're just hoping that you enjoy the rest of whatever you guys are doing. I'm glad that you guys joined us. I'm Lady Pulos, and this has been the Guideradio, the new wave. Remember, you can get us on all sorts of social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. It's all there, and all the links and everything for that will also be on there too for you guys to enjoy. That's it. Peace.
Streaming from Accra.
Guideradio, the new wave.